Tower Defense Simulator is a game where you want to get as many coins as possible in the easiest way possible, so you can gain coins faster to get even more towers to beat harder game modes faster and easier. And 7 months ago, I wanted to answer this question. What was the cheapest loadout possible for each game mode? Does somebody really need overpowered towers to complete game modes? Or was that all just overkill in overestimating the abilities of the modes? So I set out to answer that question, and I was able to find an answer for easy, Molten, and intermediate, but I gave up on follow mode as at the time I couldn't find anything that could work that wasn't outrageously overpriced, so I gave up on it. But in the recent updates, follow mode has been changed and it's now been made much easier. It's still pretty challenging, but not nearly as hard as it was before, so it is way more possible to beat now. But since that last video was made, there has also been some other changes as well that I will be talking about when I cover each individual mode. And I want to take this video a lot more differently than I did the first time, as I treated the first one more as of a challenge rather than a helpful video. So learning from the past mistakes, I want to make this more of an informative video that helps people and explains how to do stuff instead of just me doing a regular old challenge. I keep the same rules as last time, but I explained them absolutely terrible last time, so I'm gonna remake them for you guys. Well, I'm going to re-explain them, I should say. The goal is to spend as little as possible, which means using towers from the starter and intermediate sections, but if a mode requires more complex towers, then we gotta use advanced towers. We want to limit the level requirement as much as possible, as then people would be forced to grind more levels so they can actually use the loadout. And we want to try to limit as much grinding as possible. I can use as many tower slots as I want. However, I do want to avoid using a 5th tower slot as it requires level 15, which goes against the second goal/rule. So we want to avoid it. Exclusive towers and other towers that are got from special game modes do not count, as even though they are technically free towers, not everybody has them. So I could make a loadout that's impossible for people to make. It's like when old hardcore mode was out and the only way you could beat it was with Toxic Gunner, but not everybody had Toxic Gunner, so you couldn't actually beat it. And no cowboy and no wardens are allowed. And I didn't put this in the script, but I probably should have. And I don't remember if I put it down earlier, but no consumables. I don't expect you guys to spend your coins on crates and other stuff, so we will not be using consumables, and also no skills. So all my skills have been turned off for this challenge. They've all been disabled, so it's an even playing field. I only have 100 health and nothing else extra. But with all that being said, that's the rule set. And before we get into the modes, make sure to like this video, as it helps YouTube recommend this to other people, so it helps more people be informed on the cheapest loadout possible for all the modes. But now, let's get into the meat and the potatoes of the video. I say this in every video, but easy mode is just so easy you can beat it with Scout. The tower start with as soon as you boot up the game. But that's not where I'm just gonna end this section as writing it off as just Scout, that's it. I also want to discuss my strategy and how I played during the game, which was just spamming Scouts. In terms of strategy, there was no strategy, as I only had one tower. The only thing I wanted to do really was just upgrade the towers to upgrade the DPS to counterbalance the higher health enemies coming out. And when I had 40 scouts down, they were ready to take on the Gravedigger. Who the fuck are you? Who are you? Where's the Gravedigger? He's always been here on normal/easy mode, and he's been replaced by the tutorial boss? I don't know what happened here since the last time I did this, but the scouts were still able to beat the brute over here, and we can move on to... what is this? I know I said I wanted to be more in-depth with these to help the viewer as much as possible understand my strategy when I'm playing these games, but there's only so much I can yap about when the loadout is just Scout, and all I did was just spam them to get to the final wave. And speaking of the final wave, the Gravedigger is here, on the wrong mode, as normally the second mode would be Molten mode, and I would right now be clowning his ass on how easy he is dying to free towers. But he's not here right now, and I hope he shows up soon. Anyways, I killed the Gravedigger pretty easily, and now we can head into... So this is interesting. you have to be level 5 in order to be able to play this. So there's a hard cap on progression for people, but lucky for me, that doesn't affect anything so far. It just makes you, the player, have to play for a little bit more before moving on to the next mode, which I can see is a good idea from the dev's perspective, as it makes players actually have to play the game in order to be able to tackle harder modes, but it's also just kind of stupid. It makes it more annoying for you guys. But by the time you reach level 5, you should have way more than enough coins to get this. And as I am typing this out right now, they have made my life even easier by making a bunch of towers I used in this challenge much cheaper. So thank you, devs. Thank you for this update. Anyways, I knew Scout was now just too weak for this mode, and I needed to upgrade the loadout. So gaining inspiration from the last time I did intermediate, I was able to adapt it and make it cheaper, but also it performed better. I got soldiers for just plain DPS for most of the enemies throughout the mode, and I would basically just spam them and place them in good spots, getting off as much damage as possible. But I only wanted 28 of them, as while their DPS is great for the mode, I don't think it would have been enough if 40 of them attacked Patient Zero. And also, its limited range is also not helping its case. And also, Patient Zero loves stunning towers and healing himself as well. So I decided to use Hunters, as they do 120 damage on their max level, but have a placement limit of 12. So I want to only get 28 so I can get exactly 12 and have a total of 40 towers. And basically, my main strategy was get 28 soldiers for the early to mid game. Then, when most of them are level 2, level 3, I start getting Hunters, level 3, and then getting them level 4, along with upgrading some soldiers as well. And then, once I maxed all of my Hunters, I would start maxing out soldiers as well. Then, I was just left with Patient Zero, and after he was being a little annoying in some parts, and I was able to defeat him. And not only did I defeat him, but I also defeated him with a cheaper loadout. Last time I used Demo Man, and even though Sniper's free, it was just a waste of space, and a waste of money. Wasn't letting me be able to max everything in time. So all I had to do was cut down the amount of stuff I had, and not only did it perform better, it's also more reliable, as random enemies weren't just leaking out and making me question if I would actually have died as a beginner player or not. And real quick, shout out to everyone who said that I would survive that in the last video and making the win valid. I actually genuinely thought I could have died there, but I decided to go with it because I didn't want to try it again. So thank you all for that. So this actually felt really satisfying to complete, as not only did I make the loadout cheaper, but I also killed him easier. But with all that satisfaction out of the way, I just came up with that word right now, it's time to move on to... Oh look, it's the Molten boss. Why does he look so different? Now for Molten, this is where the new update really shines, as even though the update came out after I made these recordings, there was no gameplay changes. And even if they said there were for some modes, they were actually there already, just not announced yet. But we'll talk about that later. But the Militant, the sole tower I used for this mode, dropped a crazy amount from 1.5k coins to 650 coins, a 900 coin decrease in cost. So now it's even more affordable than before, and since this mode forces you to be level 15, you now have access to the 5th tower slot. If for some reason you need it, you can use it, but it's not necessary. In fact, this is just going back to the easy and casual strategies where I'm just spamming a single tower to win. But instead of it being Scout, just replace Scout with Militant. And Militant is actually such a good tower. Good DPS, high range, is very useful for other things like flying and hidden detection, which will come in useful later. And since this tower has no placement limit, you can get 40 of them. So all I did was basically pick a nice loopy map and spam the militants until I got to the Molten boss. Or should I say now Molten Warlord, as I guess he had enough of us bullying his ass for being weak, because now he's got a whole makeover and everything, and 2 huge scythes now, and other special minions for me to bully as well. Yeah, he has all this new stuff, this new mode and everything, to die to a 1.5k at the time, now 650 coin tower. Whole new mode and everything to be washed. And before we move on, I want to yap about the Molten for a bit. This guy is literally your minigunner before you can afford minigunner. High fire rate that constantly fires and great range for the cost. And surprisingly, actually profit from this loadout, because if you triumph, which you 100% will, you get 750 coins. It costs you 650 to beat it. So you are an extra 100 coins ahead, even though it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things in TDS. It was just something cool to point out. But it's time I move on to the final mode. Nope. We're done with the script. No, enough script. Pure raw emotion, as there's just some force in the universe that prevents me from finding the cheapest loadout possible for Fallen. So as I was ready to start recording the script for this video, the morning of, I get a notification on my phone. Elite uploaded a video. He apparently, just out of nowhere, decided to do the cheapest loadout possible. Not only is it already bad enough that someone else already did it before me, so I can't claim to be like the first person to do it anymore, which is already pretty annoying, but the loadout is also better than the original one I had before. It was cheaper. It was much cheaper, but it wasn't the cheapest, as another dude, which he actually based his loadout off, Marcel, actually made the cheapest loadout. And what he did in his video was use Crook Boss instead of Militant. Now, I know the beginning thing says there's no Crook Boss, because actually, he did another loadout very recently where he didn't use Crook Boss, and he still won. But it doesn't make it any cheaper because Crook Boss is free. For Fallen mode, because for Fallen mode you have to be level 30, and you get Crook Boss at level 30, so you can use Crook Boss for Fallen mode. It is a factor you can play in this. Elite just didn't know that. I guess he just didn't know it. He thought it was cheating, which it's just not cheating, because you get it for free once you're able to play Fallen. It's like the game kind of wants you to use it in order for you to beat Fallen mode. So while originally I had the script talking about how Elite actually made the cheapest loadout, I can't give it to him because he did not make the cheapest loadout, because despite being well-informed in TDS, he's also not well-informed in TDS. He still kind of sees TDS in the eyes of like a pro player, but if he wants to start thinking about a beginner player, he's like a couple years ago, like a year or two ago, when like Fallen mode was still level 15. But I've actually played games like my hour challenge where I seen new changes, like Fallen mode and Molten mode, they require level requirements now, like level 15, level 30. He just wasn't informed that Fallen mode, and I actually don't even think Marcel knows that you need to be level 30 to play Fallen, as the whole reason he made his new video was to disprove Elite.
So good job, Marcel. I mean, that was a 3,000 coin loadout, pretty impressive. But he used Crook Boss, which I feel like is a little bit cheating, because I mean, I could go use Turret and say, hey guys, look, new cheapest loadout, Turret doesn't cost anything, but I think
to say that, okay, so Crook Boss is cheating, here's an actual loadout. You can still beat it without Crook Boss. Militant is unnecessary. So good for him. And so with that, if you want to see the strategy, go to his video instead. I might sound lazy for not explaining it here, but this is what I think. If you want to see the strategy, you guys go to him, show him love, support whatever you want, because he is the true GOAT that came up with the cheapest loadout possible. I physically don't think you can make it any cheaper than it already is. I'll link it at the top right corner. I don't know what it's called. The video will be up there. You can go watch it and then come back here, I guess, if you want. But there's really no use coming back here because all the strategies on his channel stuff. And you know what? He's got pretty informative videos. You should definitely go check out. Now, how do I fit into this? Am I mad about this? No. Am I annoyed about this? Yes. Is this very dissatisfying for me, having to rely on other people for this video? Yes. I really wish I could have actually found the cheapest loadout for Fallen. I was really excited that I actually found it out, only for my eyes to be opened up and for me to realize that I wasn't even close to finding the cheapest loadout possible. But that's a good thing, because I'd rather catch myself now and talk about how people have gotten it cheaper than me and did better than me than having it all done and then people coming out saying, oh, this guy, so Marcel, an elite did a cheaper loadout, way better than you. This is clickbait. I'm like, oh my goodness. Now I gotta either make a new video yapping at talking about the cheapest fallen mode, or other things like that. And then the title just becomes clickbait in like a few days. And I don't want that. I want this to help you guys as much as possible. And I think this is the best way to do that. And with that, that's where I'm going to be ending the fallen section and heading to the outro. And with that, that's all for this video. I did about 80% of this video myself, while Marcel did the last 20% without him even knowing it, which I guess I'm grateful for, but I already had something here that I had to delete multiple times. But at least I hope you enjoy the 4 other game modes. But I'm gonna be honest, I feel like all of you guys just skip to Fallen mode and don't even care about what's the cheapest loadout for the other 4. You were probably so excited to see the cheapest loadout for Fallen just to see it copy and paste it from somebody else. So I'm sorry I couldn't really come up with my own fast enough before someone else did it. But me and I guess you guys are just gonna have to deal with it, as there's physically nothing I can do. But now the community has 100% reliable, cheap loadouts for every single game mode in TDS, which was the original goal of this video, so I guess it benefits everyone at the end of the day, which is the most important. Don't forget to like and subscribe, join the Discord if you want to chat with me, comment something for engagement to help this spread out, whatever, yada yada, and I'll see you in another one. Bye!